You're doing better?
Yeah, I am. Thanks. It's been an
Good,
interesting journey. Had some really good talks to some people. Had some readings and things. So yeah, it's been good.
good, good.
Yeah.
Well, hi. This is Let's Talk About Dating with Christine and Barry on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast #1 Internet Singles Talk Network. I'm Christine Baumgartner, and this is Barry Selby. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. So we got a fun topic today. Another one of these deep dives.
I know. We
So
don't
yeah,
like talking surface stuff. We like talking deep stuff.
the surface stuff is really pointless, frankly, because everybody knows that stuff anyway. We want to go where people don't usually go and say, "Come over here and let's talk about some good stuff."
Yeah, and they're like, oh, I never thought about that, or I never thought about it that way.
Right. Yeah.
So today it's the secrets that could break you. Isn't that like got so many layers to it?
Yeah. It's almost like when to go dan dan dan.
That would be perfect. We need organ music for sure.
You need some sound effects.
Yeah, because wow. First you have to say, well, what's a secret? And then, you know, one of the rules I had before I met my late husband, I started it and I now continue it while I'm dating is, so if somebody asks me a question, I'm like, and are you prepared for any of the answers there could be? Because I always had to figure out that I was prepared for any of the answers if I was asking a question of somebody that could potentially be none of my business or upset me for no reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Thing.
And go ahead.
Not you.
So the other thing I was thinking is a good rule of thumb that I've used that's not set in stone by any stretch of the imagination is if you're going to say it, will it make your relationship better? And if you don't say it, will it make your relationship worse?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that that fits every circumstance, but I think it fits a lot of circumstances to just run that by your head, kind of like the 4 agreements. Is this the truth? Is this going to be helpful? Because sometimes we just want to do it to relieve our own conscience, and it's really not something that's going to help, or it could harm.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's funny because I was thinking about looking back at my life. And I'm thinking about the amount of stuff I've done, the work, my personal work,
Mm-hmm.
and transparency my life is around. It's like I'm thinking, where would I hide a secret? I don't think kind of, yeah, but I do know how they impact families because something happened in my family a long time ago that was such a small thing. Actually, there's a couple of things that came out. So if we get to that, we'll talk about it. But definitely the thing about secrets for me is that ideally, in ideal circumstances, there are no secrets between couples.
Yeah.
That there's full transparency, full vulnerability. Because for me, I mean, one of the biggest things that women deal with is a lack of trust with their men.
Very
Because
much.
most men haven't been trustworthy
Mm-hmm.
as a general rule. Not saying all men, just to be transparent, but that
Yeah.
recognition is that the more that men can extend trust in a way that she can feel it, the better it's going to be. Which means some of those secrets, the more they're I don't say release is the wrong word, but they're no longer hidden. It
Mm-hmm.
means less because the hidden secrets is almost like, yes, you can have secrets that are hidden away, but people can feel them,
Mm-hmm.
especially women. Women can definitely feel when a guy is like hiding something. Trying to, it's like trying to spring a surprise party on a girlfriend isn't an easy job for a man because he knows what's going on.
Yeah. We have a
So
little spidey sense.
exactly. So that form of secret isn't so easy to hold on to. And so having secrets for me in the context of relationship is a wedge that gets in between people,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's something that there's a fear that if I tell my partner it's going to hurt their feelings, that sort of energy, because then it adds more layers of discomfort and upset that are being carried around inside. And it tends to be projected that the partner can feel. So it's not good to have these places.
No. And then for women too, when we feel it, we second guess ourselves, we take it personally.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you just said it, it's amazing how sometimes it isn't even a big deal.
Right. Well, so the other point is that when we're close up to it, our perspective is different what it's running across the room. It's like is having the internal as the external reference point.
Yes.
When you say that loud, it goes, that's what it was.
Yeah. Very much.
Yeah.
And also thinking about is this something that they really need to know? Is it something that would make a difference to them? Like, one of the things that when I was single the first time, for such a long time between my marriages, and people would say, well, gosh, how long have you been single? And why aren't you married? And what happened to your marriage? I mean, often on the very first meeting, when I'm trying to just get to know them, and they want to know all these really personal things that I don't have trouble talking about, but not necessarily to somebody who feels like a stranger to me. And we got to like the 5th or 6th date with my late husband, and I said, gosh, Tony, I'm pleased and surprised that you've never asked me about my first marriage. And he said, I figured you'd tell me when you were ready. And I was like, whoa.
There you go.
So he was interested. It wasn't that he wasn't, but he just said, it's not infecting us right now, and I'm sure she'll tell me. I said, would you have eventually asked me? He said, probably. He said, but you've been so transparent, as he had been, that he just knew that there'd be something that it would come up.
Right. And
so
that's the thing.
It wasn't like a secret.
Right.
It just hadn't been appropriate necessarily to talk about it. We'd had so many other things to talk about.
But that was the thing you're saying about how you and Tony were both so transparent that there was no fear about something being hidden.
Yeah,
no. The ones where you're so cagey about everything that you start wondering, so what are the shoes going to drop that I don't know about?
Yes.
That creates the fear and the distrust and everything else that is hard to do.
And another reason we don't talk when you said upset us that they won't like us if we say something.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
That's huge. But then you're not getting to know the authentic person. And if they don't like your authentic person, can I tell you how wrong you are for each other?
It's so funny. I mean, it's reflecting, it's like saying, looking back and going, what do I have as a secret? And I'm looking back and realizing, I've shared so much on interviews and podcasts and my 1,100 plus videos on YouTube. I'm like, there isn't much hidden anymore.
No.
It talks about my experience being bullied in high school. That's not a secret. It's transparent. Yeah. And recently the conversation come up about, being in the relationship field and being single for 15 years. And I've said it so many times, people are like going, what? And I'm like, oh, was that a secret? I didn't, I'm realizing that people think it's more secret than I do.
I thought everybody knew this already.
Right. It's like, it's what is what is.
Yeah.
So, but something like one thing happened, I know in my family history, and again, just for the people I've watched and talked about this before, my parents together basically 59 years till my mum passed away, basically 60 years. So it was never any major, there were no any major stuff in the family. But there was one instance I remember vividly when I was probably about 14 at the time, 15 at the time. And my dad, actually, no, he's younger than that, probably 10. My dad was working for British Railways, the nationalised rail system in England. That's where I was raised, in case people don't figure out I'm English. And he worked in the ticketing office, which you sell tickets and stuff. So a lot of money changing hands. And he'd done the job for a long time, been very high up. And I found out because my mum was really upset. And I was like, what's going on? Because again, 10 years old, I don't know what's going on at 10 years old. So when his mum said, so what's going on? And she said, she didn't want to say it initially, she was keeping it very much away from the kids, was that basically my dad had stolen £5. That's like, $7 worth.
Yeah.
Out of the till. But he got caught and he got in trouble for it. And so she was all upset because there was this fear about, one, because he was the breadwinner. She wasn't working at the time. Oh. And if he lost his job, and also because he'd been in trouble for that, he would have basically lost his pension, everything. How that affect the family. And that was a secret that they were going to keep from us. But it's like, being the nosy kid I was, it's like, I had to find out. But I mean, we got through it and everything, and everything got changed over. And thankfully what happened was my dad, because he had tenure there, they didn't fire him. They just transferred him to the finance office. He became in the financial accounting office. So he was dealing with the paperwork, but he wasn't dealing with any money.
Yeah.
So, and actually there was a gift in disguise, because frankly, working in the ticket office is such a drudgery work, and you can only get so far up the ladder. Whereas working in the white collar part of the business for the railways, he actually got a much higher value. So it worked out better in the long run. But that would have been a secret that would have torn our family apart. Mm-hmm. And that was, again, £5, not like a lot of money. Yeah. So recognizing sometimes these secrets aren't massive things. Like, there's a secret in the family where there was like abuse when the parents, someone's abused when they're kids. It could be something as simple as, somebody said no to somebody at one point and somebody got upset about it. Or, it doesn't have to be massive. So secrets, to get to the bottom line, is secrets don't necessarily have a weight to them. In terms of independent, based on circumstance. They have weight based on the fact they're secrets.
Yes.
It's a secrecy that creates the weight.
Yes, always.
Yeah.
It gives it more importance, for sure, which I think people kind of like that sometimes. I think that might be because I was thinking, what's the other side of it? What other reasons would people want to keep a secret besides all the obvious ones, which we've now said some of them, but they're attached to it. They like it. It makes them feel important. It makes them feel like they're part of a secret club, that they know this secret. Only I think people as human beings have trouble keeping secrets. My mom used to say, if you want something to stay a secret, don't tell anybody, and everybody who knows it.
That's an interesting paradigm that we had with that, yeah.
Because if you tell one person, they have their best friend, they just have to tell them. And they won't tell anybody else, but then they have their best friend. Yeah. I worked in a big company. There were 350 people just in our office, and it was a huge corporation. And boy, if I wanted something spread through the company, I knew the one person to tell. It was guaranteed within an hour, 150 people would know, especially if I told them it was a secret.
Yeah. If you told them just in passing, it wouldn't go anywhere.
No.
It's like secret has the extra weight. It's like, this must be communicated.
Don't tell anybody. Be sure not to tell anybody. Oh my God, it was just out there. So I knew not to tell anything I didn't want shared.
Exactly, yeah. And that's
the other thing to think about. If you have something that's precious, something that's a brand new thing you're starting, or something really hard that happened to you when you were growing up, or even as an adult, that you don't tell everybody everything.
Right.
Just because you're not telling somebody doesn't mean you're being dishonest and not sharing a secret. You're finding out, are they safe to tell your secret to, or this precious thing about you? Are they going to trample on it? Are they make fun of it? Are they going to tell other people? So I think that's a judgment thing too, about who do you tell? Who can you tell? When do you tell them? What kind of, me, I test everybody forever. What kind of test do you have to put them through before they're safe to tell whatever to? I know, it's just part of me.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really important thing for people to consider, because then they're like, oh my gosh, everybody tells everybody everything. Well, that's not true. I am a really good secret keeper, because my secrets or my precious things are so important to me. So if somebody tells me something, you can't pry it out of me.
Right. I mean, that's the thing with being coach. I mean,
what we do professionally, yeah.
Keep our clients' shares confidential, because that's out of respect for our clients. So that's the secret we will keep, because that's not something you want to publicize.
No.
And that's the thing is that there are, as you said, there are circumstances where secrets are valuable. But again, in a romantic relationship, there are very few.
Very few.
It might be a secret about the birthday present you're getting for them. This can be a surprise. Of course, that's obvious. But if you're carrying secrets, especially if it's wounding stuff from your history that your partner doesn't know about, that could basically blow up in your face, their face at the same time, if you don't introduce it to them, to let them know, by the way, this happened in the past, and I'm sure you know about it going forward. So I want to keep it clear, because part of this journey is that when both partners are being sort of totally honest and transparent, there's much more intimacy and much more closeness, which is ultimately what you want in a healthy relationship.
There's nothing like truly being able to share something that feels big and hard and scary with someone who will treat it as something really precious. There's no substitute for that.
Right.
And so if you can find a relationship that you feel like, okay, I'm going to tell them this and we'll see what they do with that, then you'll be more likely to start really opening up and sharing more of the intimate things about you that you think, oh gosh, will they still like me? I mean, those are the things we still have to share.
And those aren't necessarily secrets, funnily enough. They're not things like you're keeping secret away from people. You just don't necessarily trust them to tell them.
Yeah.
So the secrets definitely have a place to play in opening up communication.
Yeah.
And opening up trust.
Very much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's the trust. You're so right on both sides. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
as much as men, it is such an essential thing for men to be trusted and for women to trust you. And you need to also feel that we are a very safe place for whatever your thoughts, your feelings to land. You know, that we have to be safe or you're not opening up at all.
It is so much that transpires between couples that really, I mean, some of the couples don't even have this, which is what surprises me. It's like the value of having that intimacy, that safety, that sacred space that you can trust each other on is almost like mandatory for as far as I'm concerned.
Me too.
You know?
Yeah. And the times you and I've both heard, I can't tell them that. Really? Why? Let's look at why. Look, all the reasons why. Your reasons, their reasons, the made up reasons, because lots of times they are very made up reasons.
Yeah. That's the other thing. Those that's what I'm looking for. Those made up reasons why we think we can't tell somebody something which have no validity in real life. It's an illusion or a delusion we carry inside. Something I was like, I can't tell them that. They will think this of me. It's like, well, if they do, is that okay? Because maybe that's a good news to know they will think that way because they're not the right person for you. Because it is that bad. Because you want, ideally, you want to be with somebody who has a space big enough in their heart and in their space to have you tell them anything and everything, and they don't run away.
No.
In fact, they step up more, which that'd be what most of my clients, I talk to most women I know, having a man do that for them is beyond anything they've ever dreamed of.
Yep. Yeah. I had it with my late husband, and I didn't even know I hadn't had it until I had it. I'd had glimmers, and I'd read about it and talked to other people that had it, and still even trying to explain it, it's still kind of an elusive thing. It's just this wow feeling.
Yeah.
I can just say anything and you don't leave. Wow. About me, about me and how I feel, even how I feel about you, which also opens the door for, I misunderstood. Because that happened, as we know, with men and women so much. Oh, that's not what you said, or that's not what you meant. Because oftentimes we make our decisions on what we can share and not, either what's happened before, really, or what imagined happened with this new person. Yeah.
And
I've had so many men say, when I find out later, I go, oh, I guess I put both my feet in my mouth, not just one. So unintentionally.
I was thinking, one of the skills I teach and work with clients on a lot about is what I've learned over my background called perception checking. It sounds so simplistic, but the fact that when we hear somebody say something, we presume we know what they mean. And especially in romantic stuff, you hear something, and usually if it's something that triggers you, you might want to verify if it's true or not. Because oftentimes we're reacting to something that was said to us when what was said wasn't what we heard. No. And so we're getting upset about what we heard. That wasn't intention by what was said. So oftentimes, if you simply before you go down the path of like, oh my God, they shouldn't have, I'm upset, I'm going to get this path of like so away from that person. So hang on a second. What I heard you say was this. Is that accurate? And they said, no, that's not what I said, or not what I meant. What I meant was this. And you go, oh, the amount of time you could save and the emotional upset you could save.
Oh, so much. Because when I've had couples do this, I mean, there is the times when they go, yeah, that really is what I meant. Well, now we can address that. But I will tell you, high 80%, that wasn't it. And I'm listening and going, that's not what they said. But I need them to say that's not what they said. But I'm like, I heard, but I don't have the stuff. I have my stuff, and I've certainly misunderstood enough in my life. And the other thing is to say, ouch, wow, that hurt my feelings. Really sincerely say the truth. And they'll go, wow, really? What did I do? What did I do that hurt your feelings? Wow, that was not meant. Tell me how that hurt your feelings. Or, yeah, I was really mad at you. I meant to hurt your feelings. And it's so funny. I'll have these conversations with people. They go, nobody talks like that. I go, they can, really. It's available.
They can.
Generally on their own without some schooling. No, people don't talk this way. But people you and I teach can talk this way. They can
Right.
have even a heated, civilized conversation.
And come out at the other side clean and loving.
Oh,
What a concept.
It has the tendency, people are surprised about this, that it makes you even closer.
Yeah.
When you feel real and the other person goes, okay, I'm okay with you being real. No matter, even if it upsets me or we had to go through this rough, I got to be real back. It's sort of like we give each other permission, be real, and to have the other person be real, and back and forth, instead of hiding, pushing down, changing, altering who we really are. And boy, I did that so much, especially in my first marriage. That was what dating really helped me, because I didn't care. I was going to just be me. If they didn't care, there was way more in waiting in line. In my first marriage, I twisted myself completely inside out and upside down. It was terrible. It was a horrible way to live. Horrible. Yeah. I had anxiety attacks. I'm sure that had lots to do with it. Horrible anxiety attacks, because I wasn't expressing my feelings at all.
Well, yeah, because it wasn't safe to do so. Or you didn't believe it was safe to do so.
True and made up. Both. Right. It was both. It really was both. And I didn't know how to stick up for myself in a way that felt productive or safe. It wasn't always safe, and I didn't know how to even create a safe atmosphere. I didn't have any tools. There were no tools. I was 18, for God's sake. I hadn't, as much as y'all think you know everything, I knew nothing. When I got divorced at 31, I went, oh my God, I really do know nothing about relationships. I need to learn about relationships, because I only know all the ucky parts.
Well, for me, because my upbringing was raised without much arguing, whenever someone got upset with me, I would just shut down and think it was all my fault. And so I never did actually go, hang on a second, this is real or not? You know, is that person's upset to do with me, or is it up to do with them? Yeah. Because one of the biggest freedoms I discovered over this journey was to recognize when somebody gets upset, it might be because stuff happened to them years ago. Yeah. That what I said or did or got from them had nothing to do with me. Yeah. Which was a huge relief, actually a huge gift, frankly, because I was very good at taking everything personally. Doesn't matter if it was aimed at me or not. I would take it on like, that's mine. I'm going to be upset about it, and I'm going to get, take it personally.
Oh, and I'm a card-carrying member of that group. Yes.
Yeah.
I was for sure. Oh my gosh.
And it was such a relief and a release and transformation experience and even though it still shows up once in a while, I start having that sort of like habit, like going, "Oh, I want to pull it back." Like, no, let it go. Just to be clear, because again, like the perception checking, just saying, is this really about me? Did I really do this? Because first of all, if I did, then what can I do about it? Because if I can do something about it, I will do something about it. If I don't, if I can't do anything about it, then it's not, it's like, okay, how do we move on? How do we move past this point? I can apologize back. That's what it can be. And then fine, move on. So
it's one of the best parts about waking up about this, right?
Yeah,
that you go, oh, I'm still going to do it again. And then what do I do about it? And you're sharing so many wonderful tools about what to do about it. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, so much we can talk about.
acknowledging it. So I was thinking, because we're going to get close to a break, I think that one of the big secrets that people in relationships are, did they cheat? Are they cheating? Are they tempted to cheat? I mean, that can tear a relationship apart. It can ultimately make it be stronger together. It is probably one of the biggest things people would call a secret. Yep. So Cece says we are ready for a break. And isn't that a titillating place to leave people? Won't they all hang in through the beautiful commercials?
Go stay tuned for that.
Yes. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
See you in a minute.
And we're back on Going Solo Media Radio, and it's Let's Talk About Dating with Christine and Barry, and we're talking about the secrets that can break you.
Yeah.
And before break, I brought up that, oh, so tantalizing. That's us. We're tantalizing. That we could use that as a middle name. The tantalizing Let's Talk About Dating show. We could talk to Cece about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So one of the big secrets that people can have in a relationship is if they've had an affair or they're thinking about having an affair or they had an affair before. And boy, it is all, I did a little research about that, thinking, what is the consensus? And it is all over the map to say or not.
Right. And the thing, I mean, really, to say another way, is the biggest reason that relationships end is because of the secret of somebody cheating gets out.
Yep.
And that is definitely something that, and it's funny because talking about my dad with that theft thing, when Mom got upset initially, my first thought was, did my dad cheat on her? I had nothing to go on, no data points, no perception, just because it's like that was the one thing. I think the worst thing that can happen is that someone's going to cheat on somebody else, like parents. And it's almost like it was almost a relief when I found out he'd stolen £5.
Phew.
Yeah. So that cheating thing is such a weighty impact on relationships.
Really is.
And it is the wedge. I mean, talking about how your secrets can create a wedge between couples. This is the biggest wedge possible.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's the one that I've heard the most. I mean, drinking, drugs, any addiction, gambling is like right below that. But often it's even emotional cheating, not always physical, even though that's certainly the death knell, even though it doesn't necessarily have to be, in my professional opinion. But wow, my feeling is unless you have a communicable disease, it's really nobody's business what you did before you met them. That's been mine. And it was interesting, the men that would ask me, I'm like, really? Why do you care? I think you would care from now on. And Tony didn't care at all. It never came up, thank goodness. So, but if someone feels like it, or starts, or even has an emotional, mental, or physical affair, in my professional experience, because I've not had that happen personally, it's really high percentage. It's two people that have created the atmosphere that caused that. I mean, yes, there are people that are unfaithful. It's who they are. They're never going to be faithful. It's just not in their makeup. They like being with one person, but that's never enough.
Right.
And boy, it's really important to figure out if that's one of those people that you're getting involved with. What's been their history? That's somebody I'm going to ask their history of.
Yes.
Because I do say, well, what do you think happened in your last relationship that was their fault that made it end? And then what do you think was your responsibility too? And boy, you can learn a lot about that. I don't want to know the last 47 people you've been with, but I do want to know about the last couple eventually, certainly not the first meeting.
Yeah.
But if it's repeated cheating, if it's repeated not being faithful, mentally, emotionally, physically faithful, I don't want to be involved with them.
It's true. I mean, one thing I want to speak to about that, because we're talking about cheating and emotional cheating. It's like, what is the boundary on cheating? Because that's the other thing. Is like, if it's somebody you've with, or somebody you message over one of the apps with, is that cheating? Especially if you're talking about things that are emotionally weighted, does that become a split of interest? It's like the question I think that comes back to is the love being taken somewhere else?
Yeah.
Because there's such an array and a range of what cheating is. It's not just simply going out and sleeping with somebody else outside the house or in the house when you're not there. It's like, is it something more discreet but still a cheating because it's a split of the attention focus in a way. It's a split of the desire and what is really what keeps people together.
Right.
And it's a challenge. I mean, and the frustration that people feel when they don't have the partner's full attention, focus, and rapt excitement, it can feel like a desertion. Doesn't matter whether it is physical or emotional or mental. That's why they all got to be included in this conversation.
So important to say, am I still treating this relationship the way I did in the beginning? Am I still being as attentive? Am I still caring about my physical cleanliness? Am my weight or whatever it is? You know, am I paying attention to them? Am I still giving them regular attention? Because the world is very distracting, and it can be very difficult for you to stay focused if you're got too many things, balls in the air. And it's really difficult on the other person. Both men and women equally suffer from neglect.
Yeah.
And boy, there's plenty of people out there that are happy to step up, even not to have them as a permanent partner. Look at you, Sai. It's so guaranteed that if you leave the other person hungry for mental, emotional, and or physical attention, there's somebody ready to feed them. They're scanning more than one.
Oh yeah. Some at the office, some in the social club. I mean,
Oh.
And and the thing is, to be honest, I think for a lot of people, I won't say most people, for many people, it's almost the fact that they're so afraid of actually talking to their partner about the fact they want to divorce or break up or change things around. They'll think that cheating is a lesser evil.
I know, I've heard that justification before. Yeah.
Which is crazy making, because the idea is like having a conversation with somebody to voice your fears, because they might not be real even. Rather than acting on the fears and going to find someone else to go be with because you're afraid of confronting what's in front of you. One of the biggest things about secrets as well is that people are afraid to tell the truth to each other.
Yep.
And yet, the funny thing is, when you tell the truth, unlike the fear of it breaking you, you might discover that actually there's a new relationship available to you. You know?
Who was it? Martin Luther King who said the truth will set you free? I mean, it's true. It's so true.
It's one of them people.
One of those very smart, intelligent people. Yeah, because secrets, like, this is such a weird thing, but when I was married the first time, I decided I was going to take belly dancing lessons and surprise him.
Okay.
So I was taking the lessons and I was lying about where I was going when I was going to the lessons. And he ultimately said, at first he didn't notice, but then he was like, that's interesting. But he didn't think I was cheating. But I really worried about this. It felt so weird not to tell him, even though it was this benign, fun thing. And so we were going somewhere with another couple, and I was just getting, it was like 2 more weeks of lessons, and I was going to show him. And the woman of the couple said, "So, how are your belly dancing lessons coming?" And I burst into tears because it was finally this release. And he goes, "You're taking belly dancing lessons? That's so cool." I go, "But I was going to surprise you." And woo, woo, woo. All because the pressure had built up, even though this was such a positive thing. So when I say, if it's something that's you feel guilty about, and you feel like you're going against your vows, and you're going against this person who you still love or did love, and oh my God, I mean, the weight I felt for this good thing, I think, it's overwhelming, and it's too much. It's too much for a human being to keep weighing themselves down with.
And for most people who are going through that sort of experience, they tell other people but not their partner.
That's true too.
Because then the fear factor grows, because it's like, you're in a situation where you're telling people who happen to know your partner, and you don't want them to tell them either. So now you're not only making yourself responsible for the secret, you're making them responsible as well.
I know.
And the pressure is building. It's almost, in a way, what it feels like, it's almost like is to self. It's like giving yourself up for a crime you committed by telling other people, so they'll tell your partner, so your partner will find it that way, because you don't want to tell them directly. But you're using the backwards way to get yourself in trouble. It's like crazy making.
It is. And it's too much to think about. It
Right.
was really hard on my brain to keep this secret. So I
Absolutely.
decided I couldn't keep doing that anymore. I was just like, I'll surprise you with something else, especially something that went on for, it was like 6 weeks or something. It was a long time to keep this secret, with somebody I saw every single day, and we'd have conversation. How was your day? And what did you do? And I'm like, I can't tell this.
It's like, it's fine. It's all good. It's all right.
Yeah, it was so weird. So when you think about, that you're having sex with somebody else, and, how do you not come home smelling like them? How do you, take a shower? What do you say you're doing? And what if you get found out, and there's kids and finances, and it's too burdensome, I think.
The stress level ends up being so much more than you expected oftentimes. I mean,
I think people don't know, because it's so fun in the beginning.
Well, it's a titillation, it's a dalliance in a way, but then the pressure builds because the truth comes to bear, and you can't bridge the gap from what you're doing to what you want to really have completion. So you end up building the secret in between it, and the secret becomes the wall that you dare not climb, or dare not demolish either. So yeah, the challenge of secrets. And often, I mean, sometimes it can be a mistake that happened, like you made an error because you just didn't think about it. But of course, the problem is then we say, well, I can't tell them that, so I'll just keep doing it and hide from them. All it does is it creates more and more tension and more stress, like you're saying about keeping that secret for 6 weeks. It makes it worse. So I think for all of us, if we could learn to be more honest, even at the fear that comes up, like, I did something wrong, I shouldn't tell them. It's like, but if you don't tell them now, it's going to be a lot worse later on. Mm-hmm. So being willing to say to what's going on, it's like, I made a horrible mistake. This is what happened. Can we talk about it? Yeah. And that's when you can, as you said earlier about cheating can actually empower relationships. When you have that transparency and honesty, then you can actually have a healthy relationship. Possibly, if the other person gets it and you get it, and you really get clear about why it happened, what's going on, your transformation can happen. Not guaranteed, but it can happen.
Yeah. And, a mistake, I've certainly talked to people that one of them got drunk and had a lap dance, or actually had sex with somebody, and oh my God. And yes, there was lots of upset. There was, the earthquake that happened. And by really digging back into what is the foundation you've been building on, were they a good husband, wife? Were they a good father, mother?
Right.
Have they been open and honest generally? What foundation have you already built that, yeah, there's a crack, there's a fissure, there's a crack.
Yeah.
That was made by the fissure. I knew it was close. I knew you'd know that. It's not, the whole house is not going to fall. It doesn't have to fall down. Some people take it down because it's just too much.
That was the key, though. It doesn't have to.
It's not mandatory. It's right. So not mandatory.
Yeah.
People think women, well, no, I'd say more women that I've talked to have thought it was unforgivable. And there's been certainly enough men that have thought so too. It's not unforgivable. It feels like it in the beginning. I so acknowledge that. I am not going to make light of that. It feels betray. It feels, what's wrong with me? I mean, we don't want to have that fall on us, and we do. Well, what's wrong with me? And maybe there is something that you were or weren't doing that had it happen. And if it was truly, I got drunk, which is pretty awful, and still somebody wasn't pouring it down your throat, oh well, it's still really, ultimately, people have absolutely gotten to the okay. And then the other piece of that is so vital, that the person that made the mistake has to say, I'm really sorry. I really screwed up. I will never do it again. And this is how I'm going to assure you I'm never going to do it again. I'm never going to go out with those people again, or I am going to absolutely limit myself. When I know I'm in that atmosphere, I'm going to limit myself to one drink. And then if all that happens, then the person who was betrayed has to say, I'll never bring it up again. And oh, that's a lot to give up.
It's huge. It
Because
is
you
huge.
want to hold it over their head as
Well,
a bargaining-chip.
Because it's the most key part of a relationship, which is trust.
Yeah.
And when the trust is blown apart,
Oh,
and it's like rebuilding it isn't easy.
no.
But you don't have the foundation anymore that you had. It's like it destroys the foundation that was already there.
Yes.
So to build that trust requires, for a start, it requires both partners. You can't just do it on your own, and nor can they. It's both partners having a conversation and having the humility to start rebuilding again.
Yep.
Because trust can be rebuilt, but it requires both partners, and both parties need to be vulnerable enough and humble enough to do so. Because the other party, if the person's been cheated, they may be so like unforgiving and it's like just turn their back and their shoulders. I'm going to put up with it. That isn't humble at all, and that just creates a wedge that can't be healed because the person who's made the mistake, if you want to call it that mistake, or done the wrong thing, there's no way back for them.
Yeah.
So it requires both parties to be willing to meet up in the middle so they can enjoy a way back.
I love that you use the word humble and that it applies to both people. I just think that's a wonderful word, because having humility for yourself and the other person, boy, that is loving. It's loving to yourself because it says, I'm not perfect. I'm a human being. I've screwed up, maybe not the same thing, but certainly have screwed up. And I'll also bring up, well, have they forgiven you for your things? Even if they don't feel as big, the biggest transgression. Okay. Still, if you add them up, and haven't they? Well, yeah. So I think it's okay. It's okay to let it go.
Yeah.
Because what we think too is if we keep bringing it up and we keep punishing him, that's what's going to keep him from doing it. And that is the worst. It's the worst.
It exacerbates everything. It does not help at all.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very scary because they might not forgive you. They might say, I'm over and I can't be back. And oh, well, now you really know not to do it again.
Right. I mean, yeah.
But it's better to say. I think it's better to say.
Yeah, and I would say that basically the recognition in overarching all of these things about secrets that break you is that the secrets break you when you don't have a way back.
Yeah.
When the secrets are so devastating that there's no hope of reconciliation, no hope of connection, or no hope of coming back, which is why I said about humility. Part of that is also is humility for me goes hand in hand with compassion, because the divisiveness of the secret can create such a wall that's not surmountable, as I mentioned. But having compassion for ourselves, both sides of that wall, can reduce its impact and can again bring it back. This is not the cure-all, just to be transparent on this, because we're talking about secrets as a general theme. However, there are certain things that happen that will not be reconcilable. And so having the understanding that what we're talking about here is one example of one possibility. And there's some keys in this we're teaching, but making sure that those people who are watching this, where it was watching, that it isn't the only answer. Sometimes the mistake or the secret that's been done or the violation that's been made is insurmountable. And the only option is to walk away or to separate or clean up, whatever that is. But to know it's not the only choice.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that we make sure you land that one so people get that before we finish the show.
Oh, I think that's so important because, as we keep saying, there's ways to fix it, and it's not mandatory. And yes, to acknowledge there are times when it is unfixable because of what happened, because of your back history about, if it's an affair and your father had affairs or your mother had affairs and you're affaired out, there's no room for anybody to have an affair in your life. Okay, you're done.
Yeah.
And to know, just because they did doesn't mean your relationship's over. That's the thing. There's a lot of choices, because most people truly, when I've asked this question over the years, have said absolutely not. I would never forgive them for any of an emotional affair, where they're texting or emailing somebody. Even that, nope. Okay. I think that you're selling them and you and your relationship short.
Absolutely.
Because if you've been together for a while, you have some sort of foundation that don't you want to see if you can continue building on it.
Which
and
is what
guaranteed if you do, and you do it this way, it'll be better.
And I was going to say is that the ultimate point is, again, about building trust, is that when you create a relationship that's based on trust, it's interesting because when you do build trust, the secrets can be less impactful if you build really solid trust, because for some people that trust is on a very thin ice.
Yeah.
That one misstep over the secret just breaks it all apart. There's no recovery from that. No. But when you build a really solid trust between the two partnerships, and you've really opened up and been vulnerable and been transparent, as we talked about earlier in the conversation, yeah, the amount of trust that's there is so solid that if somebody comes along that is going to risk that trust, it can hopefully be such that you can actually deal with that secret, or that, well, transgression is the big word again, but using something that was violating what was in the agreement of the relationship, that the trust is not cracked by it. It's not disrupted by it. So there's an array of possibilities that can be done in a relationship when both partners are saying, look, we're going to be totally honest, and if something happens, we're going to talk about it, versus getting upset and walking away from each other without any words. Because the other part too, you said in your first marriage, there wasn't any real skill set there about how to deal with stuff.
No.
For either one of you.
No.
So the reality is that was kind of like a no-win situation ultimately.
Oh, it was just, yeah.
But then moving on to the second marriage, different paradigm, different story, and you both were in a place where you understood much more about how to be in a relationship that includes all the weirdness that happens as well.
Yeah. And I now see what the consequences are when I don't, and it's not worth it. It's so not worth it. So the benefit is that I did do it the other way and went, "Whoa, I don't want to do it that way again." So the times when you're tempted, here's going to be one of those hard conversations, and I'm going to have it, and you crap. And look what's on the other side of it, especially if you've done it a couple of times and you're like, oh, it wasn't horrible, nobody died.
Right.
Versus it's too awful to not say. It's too awful. I don't want to have to keep thinking about it and covering something up. I just think that wouldn't work for me now. I'm so pleased that I learned that lesson, because it's a burden. And the people that I talk to that they use that word, I feel I'm carrying around a burden.
Yeah, weighted down.
And I don't know what to do about it.
That's a clue. That's a hint. That's an indication that maybe it's time to get help.
Yeah. And it hasn't happened often, but every once in a while, I've got a couple that said, I was tempted and I want to fix this before I do anything. And I was like, what?
There you go. Oh, that's the gift.
Isn't it?
What's the thing? And I mean, for everybody, to own up to your temptation before you do anything about it.
Yeah.
Is a huge step in the right direction. It's a huge step in the right direction.
What I said was, because he came to me and said, I want to tell her, and I want to have her, do this together. And I said that the way to put it is, I have so much love. I have so much love that I don't want to break it apart.
Right.
And we women get all concerned about the thoughts. We just do. We think thoughts are almost as bad as doing, which I don't think it is. I think you can think whatever you want. Just don't do it.
Right.
Really, truly, think. It gets you juiced up for me. I'm okay with that. You can fantasize about everybody. I don't care. Just don't touch them. Come show me how excited you are. I'm happy about that.
As my mom used to say to my dad when I was younger, that she said he can window shop as much as he wants, just doesn't buy anything.
Yeah. Oh, now see, that was a smart mom on your part.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So if you can stay on top of, wow, I'm feeling neglected, or I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling frustrated, or I need this outlet, which is so adult and grown up, to go talk to one of us and say, what do you think? How do I get around this? Because there's times when you can, if it's just you can solve it yourself, and then you can share it with your partner. And I'd say most of the time, it's two people contributing to one person's dissatisfaction. And the other thing that comes up is both people really are not happy. Mm-hmm. The other person just hasn't gotten as unhappy yet.
Or they may be just playing oblivious.
Yeah, maybe they are happy and oblivious, but often it's come up of, Well, yeah, I wasn't feeling like I was getting attention from you either. How can we get back in connection with each other?
Right.
Often when the kids leave, because they've spent so much time and energy talking with the kids about the kids that they're like, oh crap, what do we talk about now?
Well, there are certainly marriages I know of that ended because the marriage was about the kids. When the
Mhm.
kids gone, the marriage left.
Mhm.
But that's part of the secret thing too. It's like you're going to be honest with each other what's going on. And so back to the piece earlier is that if you start to feel dissatisfaction, so that you're starting to feel tempted to go looking somewhere else, the dissatisfaction is the key to start talking. So
Yeah.
I would say bottom line, this one is be self-aware.
Yeah.
It starts with that. I know we're going to wrap the show. So
I know. And I said, oh, I didn't even notice it this time. I'm usually really good about watching when Cece says it's time to end. But we were having so much fun talking, as always.
No secrets.
Yes, we were revealing our secrets. So if you have secrets that you've had to deal with in the past or you're dealing with in the current time and you want to talk to Barry or I, the way to get a hold of me is my website is www.theperfectcatch.com. And you can also, and on my website, you can click on what's holding you back from love, and we can have a personal, private, complimentary conversation to get to the bottom of what's going on and see if there's something we can help you with and make it more smooth in the future. You can also send me an email at christine@theperfectcatch.com. And you can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Instagram and Twitter.
That was it.
Yeah. And the way to get a hold of you, I know I have to count my fingers. And the way to get a hold of you, Barry, is?
So same thing apply. I have a website you can get hold of me on, which is my name, which is barryselby.com. And there's a button on there you can click on to have a conversation with me. Also, my various things are on my website too, my courses and programs and everything else as well. You can also email at barry@barryselby.com, and on social media you can find me at Barry Selby on YouTube, on LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, and on Clubhouse is all Barry Selby. I'm the real Barry Selby on Instagram, and it's barryselby.author on Facebook. And definitely on YouTube, there's plenty of videos. As I said, I've been very transparent. You can see all about my life. No secrets held back. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/Barry Selby. There's a ton of videos on that what I talk about, and you can find out more there.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Barry. It's always so fun to talk to you, and we get really to the meat and hopefully have given people tools and ways of thinking about it that they hadn't thought of before.
And even hope, perhaps. They'll even have hope. That'd be great.
I love giving people hope.
Me
So
too.
next Thursday, we'll be back at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. Barry and Christine with Let's Talk About Dating. Bye till next week.
Bye.
Bye.